I suppose that there indeed is some kind of misunderstanding by people from abroad of what Russia is and what the history of Russia, and before that USSR and the Russian Empire, is. I can kind of understand the reasons why it is the way it is. Obviously, not every single person in the world would learn the history of each and every country with all its peculiarities and do their best to be as objective as possible when learning the history of all those countries. I mean, this is impossible. Not many people are very willing to dig deep into the history of their own country. So that's the reality, I think. And also, we as human beings have the tendency to forget the bad things that happened to us or to our ancestors, simply because we just want to live in, well, most of us at least, want to live in peace. And that's why it's kind of natural, I would say, to forget some of the worst things that happened in the past. But as we can see, some lessons of history have to be remembered. And Ukrainians have to learn this the hard way. I can't say that we have completely forgotten our history, but of course we also wanted to live in peace and cooperation with all the other countries, and unfortunately this also included Russia. Maybe that's one of the reasons why we didn't see the real size of the threat that we were facing. But at the same time, I must say that when the war started, probably deep down we weren't that much shocked by the fact that the Russians invaded. I mean, it was a shocking thing, and the war and everything that's been happening since the 24th of February is shocking, and it is still shocking. But I mean, when you look at everything that's happening and try to look at it, taking into account many things that happened decades and even hundreds of years ago, all of this stops being that surprising. After all, Russia has been our neighbor, well, always, unfortunately. And the history has more than enough absolutely horrible stories to tell about how Russians who lived in the Russian Empire, then in the USSR, and then in today's Russia, looked down on Ukrainians, made their lives a nightmare, and basically thought that, well, Ukrainians aren't really worthy of respect, and well, you get it, I think. So I kind of can imagine that maybe for some people in other countries this was a shock, and but I would say that it's the worst thing for me regarding this question is that I think that there are still many people out there in the world who still can't really believe that things that are happening, that they are real, that Russia is that bad. They might blame it on Putin only, or on Putin and like his top colleagues, let's call them that way, or on the military only. So because it's a very hard truth to accept that a country with millions and millions of people might basically go mad and do absolutely horrible things and kill people in the middle of Europe in the 21st century and act as if that's okay. And one more thing that I think is very important for people in the world to understand, and that is the thing that we Ukrainians understand very well, that Russia cannot be trusted, that whatever Russia says has to be checked a million times, because most probably that will be a lie or a half-truth or a distorted truth or something like that, that is aimed at manipulating reality and your perception of truth and reality. And that, unfortunately, ending the war with peaceful negotiations or anything like that is probably not possible, at least today. I think that the fact that people abroad don't know much about Russia is the reason why some of the foreign politicians say crazy things like, why doesn't Ukraine want to give some territories to Russia to make it happy, and the war would end and everyone would go back to living their happy, peaceful lives. The thing is that we know Russia, and we know that won't fix anything, because give something to them today and then they will come tomorrow for more and more. And we actually have seen this, because they've already have taken a part of our country in 2014, and now they decided that they want even more. So this lack of understanding of what Russia is, that Russia is still a country who aspires to be an empire, that cares about quantity, not quality. This is something that I think is very hard to understand for people abroad. It's not very easy to accept, but that's the truth. And yes, I don't know if I answered your question. Maybe I was very emotional. I hope that I gave some kind of an answer. If you want to ask something else about this, feel free to do that.